Tom Masiero, Great American Mining.
Boy, Mr. Tom Masiero, what a week can change. You know, we talked last week about some of the ways that you were helping reduce some emissions out in the Bakken oil field in Shale Play USA, if you will. And, you know, that's some interesting technology, and I do want to ask you about that on the flip end of this conversation. But I wanted to bring you in today because we talked about the digital pipeline last week. We talked about cryptocurrency last week and how it works. And it got me thinking that when the oil prices hit the negative mark, that this is like an opportunity for the cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin market to really step up and say, you know, guys, we are a solution to what's going on right now. I mean, I don't know if it's the end all, the be all solution, but I can see where the dots would connect.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. I think, you know, you bring up the term paradigm shift quite a bit during your podcast. And I would say that this particular day, I wouldn't consider this Black Monday, April 20th, would probably fit that category as well. You know, when we initially set these particular units up, it was with the intention of really almost becoming like a Trojan horse. Hey, we'll help you deal with your flare mitigation problem, your emission management. And eventually we were hoping that the oil and gas producers would see the Bitcoin light and see that they could treat it like a commodity, that there were ways to monetize their stranded gas outside of their conventional ones and create a digital pipeline. And now more than ever, I would say that we're probably closer to having some major oil producers try this because of exactly what's happening in the market right now.
You mentioned the emissions management, and I do want to get to that in just a second here, but talk to me about that digital pipeline once again, and just kind of, you know, if not the half-hour discussion we had before, but maybe like what they call an elevator pitch, you know, like a 60-second type of a version of what the digital pipeline is.
Sure. So, you know, right now there's probably four popular methods in terms of monetizing stranded gas. You have compressed natural gas, liquefied natural gas, gas to electricity, and then gas to methanol. And so we're just adding another element, which is gas to Bitcoin. So we take, you know, gas coming up from, you know, most of the wells that are out in the Bakken. We hook them up to a generator. That generator is connected to a Connex box, which is powering anywhere from, you know, a half a megawatt to multiple megawatts worth of machines that are powering the Bitcoin network. And in doing so, those machines earn Bitcoin that can either be paid out in Bitcoin's currency, or it can be backed out for the producer in a US dollar amount on a daily basis. So there's no netbacks, there's no, you know, charges for delivery into a pipeline. They can literally have their own pipeline with their own secondary market right on their site.
Last time when we spoke, we talked about, you know, this was one of the solutions for helping with emissions management. It didn't sound like it was going to be, you know, the solution that was going to take care of the problem, but it was one of one of many. Because for me, I'm all about the have as many arrows in your quiver as you can have, and this is one of those arrows that producers can use. Now, as you have reduction in oil and gas, you're going to have reduction in flaring. So my guess is a lot of these guys are going to probably just let the stuff flare going forward. I don't know what you're hearing out there, what your contracts are looking like, what your business is looking like, but my hunch is that might be the case. And what you're offering, I just want to say, I kind of know what it is and what the technology is. And I would think this would be a really, I guess, not only inexpensive way to, and I don't know if that's the right word or not, I apologize, but I know that the return is pretty good and it's a pretty low cost entry point. I don't know. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not your sales guy, but I know enough about the technology. Go on. Yeah, you take over, please.
Well, I would just say this, the data that we have going back to the actual equipment that we've put on the patch, when we've backed out the pricing compared to what a producer would get for sending their gas into the pipeline for the past about 8 or 9 months, and that's just going off of our own data. We could provide more historical data, but our own data is that on our worst month of producing Bitcoin, we were 5 times more profitable, and that's a net. This isn't gross. With all of our expenses in, 5x more profitable than sending it into the pipeline, and on a good month, up to 10x more profitable. So, for us, it's just a simple, like I said in the last podcast, both Bitcoin and the oil and gas industry is ruthless capitalism, and ultimately, once both sides understand that that's what's going on here, it's going to be a very wild ride.
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on today to talk a little bit about that and explain what my thought was, is because right now, a lot of people are so focused on the shock and awe and the doom and gloom part of it. It's important to take a step back and say, there are some silver linings here and there. Listen, it's not always going to be great news all the time, but where there's always opportunity is what I'm getting at. And this is one of those opportunities. So, kind of in conclusion, summarize, once again, who you are, how you can help solve some of the emissions management problem, and why this makes sense right now with the negative oil.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, our sole mission, if you go to www.gam.ai, here at Great American Mining, we are helping oil and gas producers build a digital pipeline for stranded gas. And so that's our primary mission. We want to show them that this can potentially be a catalyst and a foundation for a third industrial revolution in our country. And one final thought is that, this is I would say, an idea that I've heard you float around for, as long as I've been listening to you. And that's this idea of the way to deal with the flaring issue for the entire oil and gas industry is to create a subsidy behind it. And you've been kind of broad about like how it would work, or, there haven't been a lot of details, but in essence, I believe that Bitcoin mining is a flare mitigation subsidy for oil and gas producers, because what Bitcoin mining does, it's a mechanism to efficiently convert energy into a currency. And that's what you're needing in a subsidy. So that's how I would go after that problem.